Hey everybody, it's John Krask with EveryLibrary, the EveryLibrary Institute. It is 2025 Award Winners Week. It is nice to be here speaking to you tonight. Whether we're live, watching on Facebook and YouTube, or on demand, instant replay, anytime in the next couple of weeks. It's a great thing to be able to talk about award-winning books with award-winning authors. The chance to be able to go to a bookshelf, whether it's at a bookstore or a library, and say, what does somebody else think that I should read? It's really a relief sometimes, because there's a great burden to walk around the shelves and say, what should I read next? Who should I read next? How should I engage with some big ideas or some good stories? So I love the award winners. It makes me a very happy reader. And here at EveryLibrary, that's what we're trying to do in the evenings, during the day. We are the Political Action Committee for Libraries. We work on library funding, challenges to library materials like censorship, funding, the issues around discrimination that happen when it comes to censorship, and we're aligned around those big issues. Today, we want to talk also about the culture of reading and the joy of writing, and I get to do that today with a best-selling author and Oprah Book Club pick, David Wroblewski. David, thank you for being here today and sharing some of your time with us.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
It's a real treat. So we always start on EveryLibrary Live with the official bio. The fact that you're the international best-selling author of The Story of Edgar Sawtelle, an Oprah Book Club pick, should be well known to our watchers and our listeners. You're also a Barnes & Noble Discover Great New Writers Selection. You won the Colorado Book Award, the Indie Choice Bestseller Author Discovery Award, the Midwest Booksellers Association's Choice Award, and The Story of Edgar Sawtelle has been translated in over 25 languages. We're here today to talk about the next book, which is also the previous book, Familiaris, which was selected also by Oprah's Book Club and won the Colorado Book Award for Best Novel. It is so nice to meet you in person today. It is so nice to be able to spend the time, and congratulations on the book.
Oh, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no, so this book has been very many years in the making, and it's getting an extraordinary reception out there. How does it feel? I mean, honestly, how does it feel?
You know, this book took, it was not the plan to take 15 years to write this book. So when you've lived with something for that long, it stops being a project and it turns into a lifestyle. And so it's very strange in some ways to then turn that over and lose control of it. I mean, we writers always have to give away the thing that we've worked on and lose control of it. But I think that when you've been working on a book for a long time, no matter what happens to it when it goes out, there's a part of you that wants to just sit next to every single reader and say, okay, let me tell you what I'm thinking about this. This, I would probably change that now that I think about it. So.
That's fantastic. I mean, it is a long time coming. It's a long time gestating. But I mean, it's also a long time in the lives of these characters. And everybody who loved the story of Edgar Sawtelle, Familiaris is both a return to that wonderful story, but also a beginning. So the story is additive, but it's also revealing about the Sawtelle family. Can you take us through a little bit of it?
Sure. I always, I don't know how to describe this book. It often gets called a prequel. And besides the fact that I absolutely hate the word prequel, because it's one of those constructed words made out of parts of other words. But it doesn't exactly fit, because these
you can always go for a three-peat later, David.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Sorry,
that one I don't mind so much.
Okay, there you go.
Something about prequel that just gets under my skin. Anyway, it doesn't quite fit this book because these two books are kind of stand side by side. You could read either one as an entry point to the other. You get a different experience, obviously, depending on which order you read them in. But what I wanted to do in this book, there was a character in the Story of Edgar Sawtelle, which was Edgar's grandfather. And he kept appearing in the story, and he didn't belong there. And I knew he didn't belong there. And I sort of forced him to exist only in a few letters and to be a sort of family legend. But he was interesting to me, and I told myself, and I like to say that I told John, I made a deal with him. If he'd stay out of Edgar, when I was done, if he was still interesting, he could have a book of his own, and he was still interesting. And so what Familiaris does is it goes back. It begins in 1919, and it looks at the 5 periods in John Sawtelle's life, starting in 1919. What the book calls his great quests, the 5 great quests in his life. So there are 6 parts of the book. 5 of them are centered around some moment in his life where there was a critical change that happened, or a critical decision was made, or he got drawn into something that he thought was small and turned out to change his entire life, which is has been my experience of life. Like, oh, here's a small little project I'll take on, and suddenly 15 years goes by. So, and it focuses on, just to give a really quick thumbnail, it focuses on John and his newlywed wife, Mary, and they are really the main characters throughout the book. But there are 2 other characters, close friends, that they go off on a particular adventure with in the beginning, and we follow them through the next 40 years.
I think that there's a feeling that I got from this, both from the setting in the northwoods of Wisconsin, and of course they're all over the country as things progress. But that beginning and that friendship, there's a little bit of Wallace Stegner in there, and
interesting.
I'm not trying to be too hierographical. I mean, he's a hell of a writer, and so are you. But that the intimacy of friendship and that friendship between couples, I thought it was brilliantly explored here.
Yeah. Are you thinking of like Crossing to Safety?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that is certainly one of the dynamics that I wanted to explore. The title Familiaris obviously is a reference to dogs, but there's also a sense of the word family is in there. And I was really interested in the sense of how we build family, not just with our biological relatives, but the family that we assemble around us, because we are either like-minded or we provoke one another to do the best things that we can do.
I think that's a very tender thing to be exploring. And in a place in 1919, at the start of the novel, it's kind of rough. I mean, the Northwoods of Wisconsin was still, it wasn't quite Lauren Goes Wilder in the big woods, but that landscape, that area was a force. And of course, the relationship with the dogs and the relationship with the wolves in nature. I mean, you have to, as a writer. I'm not suggesting that it's the traditional like character in the story thing, but it was a character in the story.
Oh, absolutely. And the reason why it's such a character in the story is because Edgar and this book ultimately are set on a fictionalized version of the farm where I grew up.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I grew up in central Wisconsin, not northern Wisconsin. But the original idea for Edgar was to take as a first-time novelist, it feels overwhelming, all the things you have to invent and you don't know where to start. And the thing that actually got me moving on that book was this basic idea that I could take an old story that I wanted to retell, set it on this place that I knew really well, and evacuate all the real people and put in the characters to play out that story. And so if there's a sense of it as a character, it's because I know that place down to how many footsteps it takes to go from the back door to the barn.
Yes, that familiarity and again the play on words there in a certain respect. So the relationship between humans and dogs in your writing is something that I have to, of course, bring up, and I'm interested in the evolution of your storytelling and your understanding also that bond between people and their dogs that has evolved from Edgar Sawtelle to Familiaris.
Yeah. When I started working on Edgar way back in the mid 90s, as I point out to writers when I'm talking to them about and giving them advice, that they need to take it with a grain of salt, because it's taken me 30 years to write 2 novels. So I tell them, if that's the pace you want to hit, take me seriously. If you think you can do better, and I think probably most people can, take everything I say with a grain of salt. But back in the 90s, I'd grown up around dogs. My parents had raised dogs. And one of the things that had bothered me for a long time was dogs weren't being studied in the world of science. They were considered illegitimate animals to study because they'd been domesticated. And if you wanted to study animals, you had to study them in the wild. And yet, from my point of view, dogs are the single most interesting animals on Earth. They are our oldest project, domesticating dogs. Besides, like civilization itself, we've been working on domesticating dogs and being domesticated by dogs, because it works both ways, for 20, 30,000 years. We don't really know. We know when the earliest times that we can find examples of domestication of dogs, people were already being buried with their dogs.
Yeah.
So had been by that time, it had been going on for apparently a long time.
There's also been some interesting research recently, new to me, perhaps not new to you, about the shape of the face changing as we became more domesticated, and dogs as well. The shape of the face, the muzzle, changes, and also the coloration, if I understand it correctly, that there's more white in coats. And you and me sitting here as men of a certain age with our white,
we got a little white.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really fascinating, that coevolution, as it were.
Yes, I'm fascinated by that too. So I wanted to try and collect as much information as I could about how dogs came to be our companions like this, and set it in a fictional framework. And so the idea that has played through both of these books is that was obviously we're looking at the end result of an evolutionary process, but evolutionary processes don't stop, and they're still going on. And so the sort of hypothetical question I posed to myself was, what if somebody was breeding dogs and those dogs took the next tiniest, the tiniest forward evolutionary step from the dogs that we know now? What would those dogs, how would they behave? I don't really care how they look. I had to create a particular, I had to commit to a size and a shape and things like that. But what I'm really interested in is their behavior, and what are they capable of exactly that the dogs that we all know and love can't quite do yet. Very difficult, by the way, to come up with something like that. You could suppose some very implausible thing, like now they can drive cars or something like that. But if you're thinking about what's the smallest increment forward and that would be distinguishable, what would that be? And one of the problems that I had is every time I could think of just the time, I think, okay, now here's a simple thing that no dog can do. I would go onto YouTube or someplace and I would find an example of the dog doing exactly that, some kind of problem solving or something like that. So it was a strange and wonderful problem to have, to find something that dogs can't do but plausibly could.
Well, I think it's very credible in your approach. So I don't know quite how to put this, but is it something mythic that you're writing? Is it something mystical? I know there's a lyricism to it, but I think it's a very grounded story, but it moves so nicely into that mystical is probably the word that comes to mind most easily for me.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as fantastical, that there's an element of the fantastic in it. And that is simply a reflection of the kinds of stories I love to read. I like for a story, if I'm going to spend hours and hours with a story, I want things to happen to me that couldn't happen in real life. I suppose you get that out of things like, spy novels or something like that, if you're James Bond. I happen to be drawn more toward fantastical events. I think they're just fun. I get as a writer to do special effects. I have a full special effects department. I can deploy at any time.
Yes.
And they work for cheap. That's the thing I like.
Well, that and the nickel gets you a cup of coffee, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagination, you've said before, is both gift and trouble for your characters, and I wonder how much of that is personal. For you as a writer, imagination. What does it mean to you? Especially, in a time like this where there's so much uncertainty and cynicism out in the world.
One of the things you opened a can of worms there.
Okay.
One of the things that I like about this book is it is not cynical.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, neither book is cynical. But one of the things that I was interested in John Sawtelle as a character is he has this great enthusiasm to try new things, and a sort of certainty that if you take a chance and you do something new, it will work out. It might not work out the way you think, but and he ends up challenging all his friends with this particular. Well, it's not a question. It's not phrased as a question. With this statement, he says to them, "Suppose you could do one impossible thing," and that is a sort of theme through the book, is how everyone takes that again, almost a command. Mm-hmm. Suppose you could do one impossible thing. A bit of the book is where are these people going to go, and they start in different places and they end in different places, but their lives are shaped by their core belief that they're pursuing the answer to that question. Mm-hmm. And it's not played out literally like that in the story. In fact, it's not so didactic. It's meant to be hopefully funny. How some of these things work out. But that's a profoundly optimistic way of approaching life, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The emotional thread that runs through the book, is it's sincere, but I don't think it's naive. It's also witty, though, folks. I gotta just read some of these chapter headers. The ferryman's riddle, something that raises your eyebrows when you come upon that page. The other one I wanted to flag was the hazardous globe of death, David. And then also part 4, you call it searcher, consoler, challenger, defender, betrayer. Those are all, that mythic thing that I mentioned a little while ago. This is a really resonant. The vocabulary is resonant with a guy like me.
Oh, I'm happy to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's true. This is a big novel. My intention when I started out was to write a very small novel, because Edgar felt overwhelmingly large to me. Mm-hmm. And so it was not. It wasn't particularly good news to realize a couple of years into the project that there was no way this was going to work as a small novel. It needed way more breathing room than I had planned. Mm-hmm. And so. You mentioned the title of part 4. Each of the parts of this novel are almost like small novellas in themselves. Mm-hmm. The same characters occur, but they happen at different times, at different points in their life, and within each is a full story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Mm-hmm. But the end is only partial and leads to the next.
It could have been serialized, I'm glad it's a book, but it could have been done in a different way. Yeah.
There was a time when we realized that what the page count was going to be, that we talked about, is it even practical to publish it at this length? And it clearly was. And I half expected my publisher to say, let's split it into 2. Mm-hmm. And that would have been technically possible, but it would not have been. It would not have created a single story the way I see it.
Sure. Okay, this is award winners week, and I have to ask what it's like to get that phone call. There's the Nobel Peace Prize. There's seriously. There's I don't know the Academy Award nomination. And you don't get just one, but 2 Oprah calls. My goodness.
Yeah. You could have knocked me over with a feather both times.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Oprah has to say exactly one word, and you're talking to Oprah. Her voice is so distinct, and we know. In both cases, I just heard, "Hi, David." And I went, "Oh my God, I'm talking to Oprah."
Yeah.
Or I'm about to talk to Oprah. I haven't said a word yet, but I already know who I'm talking to. I guess I never really appreciated just how distinctive her voice is. Mm-hmm. I was starstruck in both cases.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very honored by the whole thing. I think she has curated an amazing list of books
Mm-hmm.
and the thing I like about her book club is you might like a book that she picks, you might not like a book she picks, but it's picked by an individual. This isn't a committee thing.
Yeah.
This is one person saying this fits my sensibility and what I'm thinking about now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's quite different in many ways from it. Obviously, it's not an award per se, but it's quite different from books that get selected as awards. I'm sometimes frustrated by that because the same award one year is selected by one set of people. The next year it's a different set of people, and the dynamics of the readers that are on those committees and why they picked what they picked. Mm-hmm. There's no continuity, and maybe there shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. But just because I loved what was picked, last year by Committee X, tells me nothing about what's going to be picked this year.
Right. Yeah. The jury has instructions, but it has a will of its own. Even the judge. The judge says, "Here's how you're supposed to interpret the law," and the jury says, "Guilty or not guilty."
Right.
And it's like that for certainly for juries for awards.
Yeah.
But to have it, the Oprah Book Club is more than just Oprah's bookshelf. I understand that, but to have somebody who is that heavily engaged in American culture,
yes,
helping to surface great stories and interesting stories and moving stories. I mean, it's interesting to be in that company, I would think.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting and daunting and humbling and of course, it made me incredibly happy for each book. I mean, when you reach the point by the time you reach the end of working on a book, you just want to see. This is kind of weird, but my wife Kimberly, when Edgar was, we turned in the copy edits. It was all done, and she said it's like sending your kid off to school with a lunch pail in his hand for the first time. Yeah. You're no longer in control of the experience it's going to have. You just want it to have a good experience. You want people to encounter it, and whether they like it or not, you can't control. But you really hope that people will hear about it, and you really you look forward to hearing from people about how it landed, because that's when the real learning begins in a novel, is once people start reading it.
Well, I mean, you know what? I did you the disservice before. I hadn't held it up yet, because I had it all flagged over there. I want to make sure I read those chapter headings. But at its core, Familiaris, I think, is about finding purpose. I think it's about finding meaning and connection, whether it's with others or with nature or with the animals or with the dogs. What do you hope for the reader? That's the hope as the writer. What do you have for hope for the reader?
I want the reader to have a great time. I'm not trying to be profound. I think that that's a mistake, because you get things turn heavy-handed very quickly if you go for that. I want people to, to laugh and be scared and surprised and be engaged. Novels are strange. The novel is a very strange form. I mean, we are asking people to spend 10 or 20 hours often, sometimes more. I'm a very slow reader, so it could be more. It would take me more than 20 hours for sure to read Familiaris. And we're asking them to spend an inordinate amount of time in a single story, and so I'm just very focused on being a good host, making sure that people will be surprised. One of the things that when you're writing a long novel that you have to worry about is, can the reader get ahead of the story, which is can go, okay, I saw that coming 100 pages away.
Yeah.
That's death to a novel when that happens. So enough surprising things have to happen, and they have to happen fast enough, and it has to all be entertaining enough so that the reader can say, I forgot what time it was.
Yeah, good fiction is psychoactive. It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sometimes that moment when you're daydreaming a little bit, and you're not just remembering the story, you're re-embodying it. It's psychoactive. Yeah.
Yeah. The way I think about it is when you're looking at even like a long form TV series, which often gets compared to a novel, you're watching that show, but when you're reading a novel, you're living a novel. Yeah. And I think there's a great distinction there about the level of immersion that you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that there's something beautiful about that, and spending some more time with this family has been a real joy. So, okay, we mentioned the prequel as a portmanteau we don't want to hang out with, but I did bring up three-peat before. Let me close with this. Let me close with this. What are you working on, David? You got a three-peat in you?
That's actually been a very difficult question for me. When I finished this book, I was tired. And I had always imagined Familiaris and the Story of Edgar Sawtelle as part of a triptych, is actually the way I think about it. There's a center panel, that's Edgar. There's a panel on one side, that's John. And then there's another panel. And I have not started. I'm actually working on a very different kind of book right now, a very small book. I promise it's small. And as a sort of breather between novels. Okay. So that's what's in the works now. It's just a very small nonfiction sort of long form essay.
A lot of the triptychs had, if you turn them around, also they had one more panel on the back. So when they
no kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. You go to those medieval churches, you got your inside of the triptych, and the doors when they close.
Oh, when they yes.
And so it's not over when it closes. It's just a little different story.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I like that.
Good. David, you've been very kind to spend some time with us tonight here on EveryLibrary Live and sharing about the book and about your hopes as a writer, but also it's been a lot of fun to engage you as a reader, to get this chance to talk with you and also learn a little bit more about what it's like to talk to Oprah. That's pretty cool.
Well, thanks for having me. I really admire the work that you're doing. And I'm absolutely thrilled to help in some small way.
Well, we'll talk in the green room about that, and then but in the meantime, thank you again. We always do the wave, and I also have to put up the little card and hit end, and I'll see you in the green room, David. Thanks again, team.
Cheers. Right.